The Mayo Experience.
Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, presented by DraftKings 2021 WGC Workday Championship at The Concession. DraftKings picks and preview. Maybe some Puerto Rico talk towards the end, too. If you want to play in the Listeners League, it is almost full, so I suggest you head to the description and get your spot right now. Even if you just reserve the spot, don't pick your team. You'll want to get that entry. 3 max entry, $15 to play, no rake, making it the best tournament on DraftKings. Trademark by Pat Mayo. Not really a trademark, by the way. Also, fantasynational.com, where we're pulling all our stats, all our ownership from this week. fantasynational.com/Mayo. All the tools you need, all the stats that you need. Use the discount with the /Mayo at the end. You can get it for like $7 a week or something like that. If you play more than $10 a week, probably something you should invest yourself into. And if you want a bigger breakdown of the European players in this field and all of the international players, check out Mayo Media Network later on Tuesday. Sky and Tom are back. There's no Euro event this week, so they're just going to be talking about the Euros in the field at the WGC, so a deeper dive on those guys on that show. You can find that up video-wise on Mayo Media Network on Tuesday evening and on Daily Fantasy Sports, Picks and Bets, The Mix audio podcast, which you can find in the description of this video and podcast right now if you prefer to listen to it. That way, I also have my one and done breakdown for the WGC up on that feed as well. Joining me from DraftKings, what's going on? Geoff Ulrich.
I'm doing good, Pat. Yeah, man. I mean, look, I swear to God, and I was going to tell you this before the show. Every time you have me on, every time you contact me on like a Sunday and you're like, hey, you want to come on the show? I end up hitting a winner. Like, so, I mean, like last week with Max Homa, it's the same thing. He contacted me like Sunday morning. Max Homa breaks through. So, I mean, I'm very happy to be here. Got the little Mayo bump. It's like the pre-Mayo bump with me. Next week will probably suck for me, but last week was good.
Well, I guess you get the benefit of the Pat Mayo pre-cum in terms of your betting, and then Raza gets the opposite boost. It's always like, oh yeah, I won $200K this weekend after being on the show. It's like, oh great, thanks. Yeah. Can I have some?
Yeah, can we get a little bump into the production value here from you, Ben? But yeah, Ben brings in the big money, but I just get the little 60 to 1 winners, but we'll take it.
Hey, 60 to 1 winners is, listen, after my no winners, I would take the 60 to 1 winner. I'm not going to lie to you. Let's talk about the course. The Concession, it's a Jack Nicklaus design, par 72, 7,400 yards plus. So it's a lengthier one. There's a full complement of par 5s, although depending on who you talk to, Jack Nicklaus says that one is not reachable, one is reachable, and then another 2 could be reachable if the wind is at your back. So I'm going to take his word for it over like people just randomly speculating. I mean, we all have to kind of pick a lane. That's one of the shitty parts, but also one of the fun parts about coming to a new course that we've never really seen at a professional level before, is that you can kind of pick your lane. If you want to go full bombers and think that these guys are going to take huge advantage of this course, you are free to do that in a no-cut event, especially at the bottom, because you can find those people down there. If you want to say, you know what, I don't think it's going to be a pure bombers course. It's going to be like wedges and like shorter irons and putting. You can really construct your teams that way. What lean are you getting from this? Because I'm sort of on team wedge here.
Really? Okay. I'm on the opposite. I think this is kind of like a big modern golf course, and when I've looked at it from a couple different angles, and like you said, I mean, I'm just some hobo on the street trying to figure things out. I'm not involved in the design process or a professional golfer who's played it before, but it does remind me of places like Copperhead and maybe even the old Doral venue where you just had bigger fairways, you had carries over water, but you had longer holes. You have like tough par 5s where I feel like with some of these landing areas, the bombers are going to be able to kind of take advantage and make some pretty big carries. Reminds me a little bit of Bay Hill too. I think it's just like a traditional tough Florida course. And I don't necessarily think that it's all driving distance, but really strong tee to green, good off the tee and good on approach. I think you're going to need. So I'm more of I guess I'm a little bit more of the bomber approach. I'd call it more of just like the really solid strokes gained off the tee guys than just pure bombers, but that's the way I'm leaning. I think it's going to play a little bit tough. I think these longer par 5s are going to be tougher for the guys who are more just wedge players and wedge and putter players. So that's where I'm leaning right now. But maybe if the wind doesn't get up, it looks like it's going to be pretty solid weather. It may play more towards what you're leaning to.
I'm sort of at a crossroads of what I want to do with this, and I'm not just crossing off players by any means, depending on what the skill set is. But
yeah.
I think you kind of hit on it. If you do think that it plays tougher, which we don't know, it could play super easy.
No, totally.
It could be like -24 or something like that. Then
Exactly.
who has the hottest irons and putters going to end up winning. But if it is a bit tougher, then you're going to need like a sprinkle of around the green game as well to save yourself, especially out of the sand, because this place is just riddled with bunkers everywhere. And you mentioned all the water, so you're going to see some big scores on some certain holes. So at least not necessarily like driving accuracy, but ability to control your tee balls, I think is going to be pretty important this week as well. It seems like we're getting a discount on all of the non-bombers this week. And I found that not necessarily surprising, because that's kind of how it is every single week. But when you get into like your Reeds or your Webbs or even Morikawas or Sungjaes, those guys seem to be way down the list versus, equivalent talent, or less accomplished players for that matter, are just more expensive and have higher odds.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, you could even keep going down. Like, why is Harris English 7,500? Joaquin Niemann, pretty solid value as well. So, guys like Webb and probably Reed too. I think that most people will probably go with the narrative of, okay. I mean, it's a bit of a longer course, the par 72, the 4 par 5s. So those guys stick out as some of the best values on the board. I 100% agree. And I mean, again, when you get down to certain ranges, like, I mean, obviously I like the prototypical kind of player who's a little bit bigger off the tee, like a Rory or something. But, I mean, when Harris English is like that cheap or Niemann's that cheap, it doesn't really matter. Like, I mean, they're just the better players in that range, so you should play them. And I think Webb sort of falls into that category. I think you can make a better case for fading because the 8K range is pretty strong with guys like him down there. But it's a good point. You're probably going to get lower ownership on them as well. So definitely an interesting week. I like the fact it's a new course. I think Jack Nicklaus designs too. The other reason why I would lean towards it being tougher scoring. I mean, we see the Jack Nicklaus designs on tour, PGA National, Muirfield. They're typically not easy. Like, Jack Nicklaus obviously knows how to design a golf course, make it challenging for the players, especially the modern players. So I expect a bit of a tougher week, but again, it's a new course. I mean, the greens could be really soft. They could just start firing wedges, like you said, and it can turn into a putting contest. So
the reason that I really wanted to hammer down on wedge play in particular is because if, let's say, that these par 5s are not reachable into at least 3 of them, that means your third shot is going to be a wedge into the screen to generate a scoring opportunity. Then you have these 2 short par 4s that one of them seems like it could be drivable, but I doubt most of the field is going to go for it. So that leaves 2 par 4s where it's going to be hit it to your preferred wedge number and just try to stick it to 2 feet and go tap it in. So it seems like there's 5 holes like that will probably be 5 of the easier holes on the course where you need to make birdies. And I feel like that's your best path to make birdie.
Yeah, absolutely. It could play like that, like I said. And, further to that point, there are 5 par 4s on this course where they fall between 400 and 450 yards. So even if the bombers are able to take some carries, I mean, guys like Bryson could end up having wedge into like every hole, right? So it could be a blend of like wedge play and driving distance. Maybe that does like lead more to my point of you should be targeting the guys with big drivers, because I do feel like some of those par 4s they're going to have a distinct advantage on. But wedge play could definitely end up being important too if the par 5s end up playing like that and like Jack thinks they're going to play. So I'm still of the opinion, like, I'll be targeting more off the tee play and tee to green, but looking at players maybe with both, right? Like with good off the tee play and good wedge play is the real key. Maybe it leads itself to a Bryson week now that we've kind of dissected it in that regard. But I see your point about the wedges, and like I said, the setup, there's not a ton of long par 4s, a couple short ones, and then there's a bunch that fall in between. So.
Well, if we talk about the 10K range and talk about the guys that are both good off the tee and with their wedges, you have DJ and Rahm 1-2, who are the guys for that realistically. 11-6 and 11-1. Then it's Xander, Thomas, Rory, and Cantlay. Bryson does not make the cut of the 10K level. He's at 9-9 this week. Also, he's Tim's one and done pick, so that's never a good sign. Although I think Tim has hit the winner at this particular event like 2 of the past 4 years or something like that, because he always takes one of the. Well, it's smart to do in a WGC because it seems like there's only a certain shelf life of players who can actually win this event. So it's one of the events where you want to burn one of your very top end guys, I think. And it's not like the prize pool is small; it's huge. So Bryson winning this week, or Bryson coming second at the Masters, or even first at the Masters, if he wins both events and you take him in one, there's not like a huge difference between the two.
No, absolutely. I mean, look, this event has been. It's been dominated by the top players. I mean, going all the way back to like, the 2000s or whatever. I mean, Tiger's won this 7 times, Phil twice,
DJ,
Dustin 3 times. There's no, you look at the list of winners going back, and like the most long shot winners like Geoff Ogilvy or something like that when he was good. So this is not a week where you want to go dipping down and being like, yeah, let's put Bezadenhout in my one and done or something like that. You definitely want to burn a top player. This is, there's more prize money up for grabs too. This has just been the one that it feels like the top players kind of get up for early in the season too. The guys who skip most of the West Coast swing take it more seriously. The guys who are in form from the West Coast swing come in here in good form, and they all kind of just go at it. So yeah, absolutely. For one and done, I'm burning a big player too.
The big thing for me as it pertains to DraftKings lineup construction, like I might only play a max of 5 lineups. I've only made 3 so far. The 3 for my tournament, I'll probably just enter those across like single entries and that kind of thing. I don't ever really feel all that comfortable, especially not knowing what's going on. It's a no-cut event, and just stuff changes on a dime. Like you'll be up like $5,000. Like, there's 3 holes to go, and then all of a sudden you're out of the money because it's a no.
So not withdrawals or something.
Yeah, like someone on the back side of the course who's like 6,300. Just he makes an albatross, and then all of a sudden like that's so impactful on this particular event that only has 72 players in it that you're just screwed all of a sudden. So there's a larger degree of luck that goes into an event like this versus the amount of luck that you need. You need a ton of luck anyway, week to week on PGA DraftKings, but in these no-cut events, everything really needs to break your way. So I'm not really concerned about ownership this week. I'm just going to leave like $200-300 on the table, and that's going to be fine.
Yeah, I like that strategy for WGCs too. This is definitely a week where for construction, I think leaving money on the table is always a good thing to do. And realistically, these fields are deeper, right? So we have more elite talent to choose from at the back end. I mean, when you're talking about pivots, I mean, Ryan Palmer versus Shane Lowry, or like these guys there's just not that much difference. I mean, Palmer maybe up in the world rankings or whatever, but you've got longer term, better players that you can pivot to here too. So definitely don't mind that strategy at all. And I think at the top, there might be a couple opportunities for guys who are going a little bit lower owned, Rory and Thomas kind of falling in maybe a bit of a dead zone, but I'm still expecting fairly flat ownership. There's no huge deals like Bryson coming off a miscut. I know he's under 10K, but how popular is he going to be coming off a miscut? I'm not sure. I guess we'll find out. Cantley's priced up a bit now, so he's playing great. But I like the strategy for sure that you can always guarantee or virtually guarantee yourself a unique lineup by leaving $300 or $400 out in these limited fields events, and it gives you like a little bit. It's just easier, quite frankly, because you do that and then you don't have to worry about, like you said, my ownership is way up now. Now I got to go back and fix things. Just put your salary cap at like $400 less and make whatever lineup you want.
Well, by and large, ownership projections for this type of field are extremely difficult. Like the over-under, like on each side, the margin of error on the projections is like 5 percentage points either way. Only because everyone can afford to own all of these guys. You could afford to own 2 of them if you really wanted to, because guys aren't going to miss the cut. You can gamble on the very bottom end. I don't feel like that strategy works out all of the time. Like you need the 3 particular players in the 6K region who play well, if there are 3 who end up playing well by the end of the week. And just nailing that is so much harder than trying to figure it out, I think, a bit more long-term. So it's not really going to be stars and scrubs for me. The only guy that I'm playing right now above $10,000 is Justin Thomas. I went over him on the Monday show with Jeff. I bet him at 20-1. And that particular place, he's now down to 18-1. So we'll see how that goes. He's 18 on DraftKings Sportsbook as well. But like he so rarely plays back-to-back bad events. In the past, I think it's 3 instances that he lost strokes to the field in the overall course of an event. He hasn't finished worse than T6 in his next start. Most of his career, 13 wins have come at no-cut events. And then you can throw in 2 more of the FedEx Cup playoffs that are limited field events like this one, and you start accounting for, oh man, he just tends to play well. And the biggest thing with him is, generally speaking, like he's going to have his bad putting day. He's going to have his one bad round. But in a no-cut event, if it happens on Thursday, it's not really that big of a deal because he probably has the lowest score potential out of any of these guys that he can just kind of rebound on a Saturday and beat the field by 4 strokes, and all of a sudden he's back into it. So I think that you're going to see, I don't think you're going to get an ownership discount on him, only because I think a lot of people are seeing what I'm seeing when it comes to Justin Thomas. Maybe they're scared off a little bit, but I like him the best of the 10K plus players. If I had to pick another one, weirdly, I think it would be Cantlay, who just crushes Nicholas courses.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just trying to see where Thomas is here in my projections. I don't even know. Actually, it looks like you might. I mean, we might get Thomas at a pretty good ownership projection here. Yeah, decent. But I'm of the opinion Thomas. It is crazy to see him at 20-1 again. Like when you see Justin Thomas at 20-1, you should probably just hammer it every time. Absolutely, I'm in agreement. He did regress a little bit with the ball striking of Phoenix, and I just worry. Maybe this is more just me, just like putting this stuff in my own head or whatever, reading too much into the situation. But dude's had a tough start to the year. Like the on the course, off the course stuff at the Tournament of Champions. He took some time off, lost sponsors, whatever. And then, obviously the dealing with his loss of his grandpa is a big deal. That's terrible to go through. It just feels like it's starting to seep into his game a little bit. And I do like him for no cut events. You're spot on with the fact that when you get 4 rounds of Justin Thomas, he can go 72, 61. Like that's what he does. Right. So I think at lower ownership, he makes for maybe a better DraftKings play. I'm not going to take him in the outright department just because I really do feel like he's going through just a bit of a low spot right now, maybe mentally and physically on the course. But it wouldn't shock me to see him bounce back with at least like a good round or two here because he just doesn't play poorly for very long. And, with the 4 rounds guaranteed here, it's a safe spot to go with him for a GPP. And it does look like he's trending and a little bit lower in the ownership. Although, like you said, the ownership projections for this event can be tricky. So I'm in as Justin Thomas as more of like a GPP play. Maybe you want to go field or maybe just above field average if I was making a ton of lineups, but I'm not really that into him this week, to be honest. Definitely agree on Cantlay. I'm really big on Cantlay for the future here. I think he's going to be in contention for the next couple big events and maybe even for this one this week. Cause like you said, the Nicholas course correlation, it's a thing and he's playing extremely well across the board. But for Thomas, I'm more the opinion. I'd rather go to Rory or even down to Bryson. I think Rory's, coming off that miscut, the little extra time to get ready. He's played extremely well in Florida over his career. I think that the change in scenery is going to do Rory good things here.
Do you have any interest? And I know we're trying to limit our options here. You can't play everyone type of thing. You really want to be particular, especially at an event like this.
Yeah.
But DJ, Rahm, Xander, Xander's done well in no-cut events. I mean, 3 of his 4 wins have come in that sort of format. He's won a WGC as well, and obviously Dustin has like the history of winning WGCs, and then you have Rahm in the exact same spot. Like, do you have a preference between those guys? Because I just don't see myself paying up that much. Like, even getting the $300 discount from Thomas up to Xander, I think is huge.
Yeah, and I definitely agree on Xander. The approach I've taken with like Xander and Rory is I'm just going to play the guy who's like down a little bit in the odds. Like last week, I tried to, I put a little outright on Xander. His odds were back up to like 1,600, which is massive for Xander these days. And, his DK price was down a little bit. It was okay from a DK perspective, but now his odds are back up. Like he's a little bit smaller than Rory in the odds and he's bigger on DraftKings. I'd rather just pay down. Both these guys seem to be kind of just treading water, looking for that breakthrough. And I'll take a shot with Rory here at slightly, lesser salary. And look, you're on Thomas. That's fine. I think Thomas is the same kind of deal. I mean, if Thomas is ever going to be lesser or bigger in the odds and lesser on DraftKings than Xander, I'll probably just play Thomas. This week it's going to be Rory for me. But as far as Xander goes, I don't really want to get off him, but I don't really want to pay 10-8 for him when Rahm is there at 11-1 or even just getting up to DJ. I mean, I'll just play those guys. I think DJ is the anchor you probably want to use for cash games and such. And even just going all in on him, at this course is a fine idea too. But Xander's kind of in that dead zone for me. And I'm kind of going Rory over Thomas. Instead of using Thomas and Schauffele, I'm basically going up to Rahm or DJ, or I'd start down with McIlroy. So that's kind of where I'm leaning. Xander is going to be kind of a no Xander week for me, although I fully understand. I mean, the guy's got a fantastic short game these days. If he gets the wedges going, it could be a big week, but I'm probably going to be out on him.
Well, I mean, the finishes have been amazing. His 15th at the Genesis was his first non-top 5 of 2021.
It's sick, right?
But there's so much value in him during. It's funny because 3 of his 4 wins have come at no cut events, but his real value has been in these cut events because he's just safe. He makes the cut every time.
Yeah, like last week. It's exactly like last week. If you played him over all those other guys, I mean, you still had a good week, or you could have had a good week. If
you could have won last week with Xander in your lineup. I guess because I used Thomas and I used Bryson. That did not work out whatsoever. That was bad news, Geoff. From the I went over my $200 review lineup, and I think I played Bubba in that one, but I had a 4 of 6, and the 2 guys that missed the cut were my 2 good guys.
Yeah, I mean that's the kind of week it was, right? Like you need to nail the guys like Wyndham Clark and people last week.
I had Wyndham Clark.
I mean that makes it even more frustrating. But yeah, as far as Xander goes, I think you're right on this in this type of event. That's why I keep bringing up Rory and like Bryson. I would rather go for the gusto. Like you need the winner here, so I feel like the upside is still better with Rory and Bryson. Like they're still the better upside plays compared to Xander. Xander's great for treading water. He's playing so consistent just across the board, but I'll take that upside with guys like Rory and Bryson this week. You get a little bit of a discount. The ownership's not going to be huge on either one of those guys, I don't think. And, realistically, they're just, I just think there's a better chance those guys come in and blow the doors off versus Xander probably just giving you like another good finish, but a good finish in a WGC event for DFS, it's not going to do it. You need the winner this week among these guys. And I think Rory Bryson have a better shot at that. Weirdly
as well, Xander, outside of competing in the Players' Championship, rarely plays in Florida. Like he never plays Bay Hill, he never plays Valspar, it never plays Honda. It just seems to be Sawgrass, and that's it. And he has a just really mixed bag track record there, and a lot of that has to do with water being in play so much that you can just eject out of nowhere. But he has a 2nd place finish there. He also has a missed cut from the last time that we actually saw the Players' Championship happen. So it's kind of weird.
It is kind of weird, and again, it kind of comes back to my main point, like. You look at guys like McIlroy, DeChambeau, even Rahm and Dustin. You throw Xander into that mix. Like, who's the worst guy off the tee there? It's Xander. Like he sprays it the most. He can be very good off the tee too. He's still elite with his driver compared to the rest of the tour. But you throw him in with Dustin, Rahm, Rory, Bryson. Like he's last in there off the tee. So if anyone's going to get in trouble off the tee, it could definitely be him here. Like I said, it all kind of leads me to thinking this is probably a good week to get off him.
He did play Bay Hill last year. He was 24th at the Arnold Palmer Invitational during that like really weird wind week when Hatton ended up winning. But
the last normal week of the year.
I suppose that's true. But I guess the concern that you bring up, if you were just going to point to like, hey, if we have to nitpick between these guys, what is it? And you mentioned the driving for Xander. That would be the one huge drawback on JT is that he is by far the worst driver out of all these guys.
Yeah, and JT, that's right.
And he's
actually,
but he's not a bad driver. He's just not the elite driver like the rest of them.
Exactly right. That's why I didn't include him with the other guys because I wouldn't even put him in like he would have been clearly last when you include him with Dustin, Rahm, Rory, and Bryson, right? So, but yeah, he would fall in kind of the category of Schauffele. Doesn't have as good control off the tee. Could get in a little bit more trouble, but still able to win. I mean, if the wind isn't up, I mean, he's won at the Honda Classic before, so JT can certainly get it going. I would rather take a shot with JT, even though, like I said, not really my bag for this week over Schauffele because I still think the upside is better with JT. But I'm just going Rory.
We'll get back to the show in a second, but I want to tell you that support for the Pat Mayo Experience is brought to you by Manscaped, who's the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. And there's big news. Manscaped just released their new cologne scent to help you feel good and smell good all over and at all times. Who knew smelling so good can keep you feeling this good too? Manscaped is trusted by over 2 million men worldwide. So join the movement for all your below-the-waist grooming needs. So have you ever been to the gym and post-workout, you come out of the shower, everyone's getting back in their normal clothes, then you see one jabroni just dose himself with a bunch of aerosol spray thinking it's gonna make him smell good? I've seen it. It doesn't smell good. It's a terrible play. What you need to do is use the new refined cologne signature scent by Manscaped. And don't use the whole bottle on yourself. You don't need to bathe in it, just a spritz. That's all you need. Calming and inviting. This signature scent introduces a light citrus burst before settling in to the anchoring notes of a woodsy, masculine finish. You know one thing about Pat Mayo, it's a masculine finish, right? The 50 milliliter cologne is cruelty-free, dye-free, and vegan, 100%, so you're covered on all bases. And as always, be sure to check out the Perfect Package 3.0 with all the essentials for your below-the-waist grooming needs, including the Lawnmower 3.0 trimmer and crop formulations. Yes, I'm talking about some ball toner as well. And you can use the new Manscaped Refined Cologne to complete your set and smell great anytime, anywhere. Time to feel sexy, fellas. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code MAYO at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use code MAYO. Look good, smell good, feel good with Manscaped. Back to the show. Let's drop down to the 9K level. We talked about big, beefy Bryson, 9-9. Tony Finau, Tyrrell Hatton for the first time in America this year, Brooks Koepka, Victor Hovland, Daniel Berger, Patrick Reed, Webb Simpson, and Collin Morikawa. That is the entire range of the 9Ks. And again, it's not that I don't like the Brysons and Finaus of the world. I do like Hatton a bit, but I think with the way that I want to construct lineups here and try to garner as much win equity from down in this range as possible, and maybe by not playing Rahm and DJ, who definitely have the most in this field, that I'm really giving a lot up at that top end, and I'm not cobbling it together well enough. That's definitely a possibility. But 93, 92, 91, 9,000, Berger, Reed, Simpson, Morikawa, I can just play lineups with those four guys.
I think there's two approaches, and I definitely see that. Like, I think Berger down there is kind of interesting. Morikawa, I admit, like, these guys there's not that big difference, but I'm kind of the opinion, like, other than Bryson, who I definitely want a piece of this week, I'm almost okay just skipping the entire 9K region. I'm not going to lie.
I feel like these guys are a cut above of the next tier down. Like, if we're going to be talking about Webb versus Cam Smith or Patrick Reed versus Max Homa. I know he just won, but that seems like a big line to me between who can win this tournament and who probably won't.
You're not wrong with like guys like Cam Smith, but I would argue like Sanjay's down there.
I like Sanjay a lot. I think you can add Sanjay into the mix of these guys, and that's the way that I've built my lineup so far. But those five guys in particular, and then I basically have no one until the low 7,000s. Yeah.
Like I said, I think there's definitely two ways to go about it. I can see the value in just building in this 9K range too. I mean, Koepka at 9,500, still getting discount on Koepka for whatever reason. I mean, coming off a win, you'd figure he'd be up there with like Rory or something, right? So I see why people are excited and people are excited about his betting price. Definitely understand that. Koepka might be one of those ones where I just fade. It's a water course. Has he ever really done well in Florida? I don't know, but
Honda.
Yeah, I guess he's played well at the Honda before. The other guys, Berger, I definitely am interested in. I may have a piece of him. But like Reed, Simpson, even Collin Morikawa has played okay. Morikawa might be the guy I get a piece of there. But I'm okay fading these guys. Again, if I feel like it's going to be like a more of an off the tee week where, you're going to need guys making these carries and stuff like that, and it's going to give them a bit of an edge, I'm okay fading Reed and Simpson. That's just the way I'm gonna go with it. It's the way I'm gonna roll and gonna make my call, and I'll live or die with it. And I may be very dead wrong because you're getting really good value on Webb Simpson, but I'm okay going down to like the better driver with Sanjay, the better driver with Scotty Scheffler, and pretty much almost fading this entire region. Like I said, Berger I think is interesting. He's a Florida dude. Obviously, he's playing really well. We know coming off the win. I think 9,300, it's a really good price, but I'm probably going to be team fade here. I want to stack a couple of the top guys. Maybe it's Bryson and Rory, maybe it's Dustin and Bryson or something like that. And then I want to go down. I want to use the 8K range and below. And I think that I'll be out on most of these guys, to be honest.
And I think that's where picking your lane this week of how you think this course is going to play out really makes a difference, because all of the guys that I mentioned fit primarily into what I think is going to happen here. It's going to be a second shot course, a short iron course. Can you get up? I mean, Morikawa doesn't really fit that, but you kind of forget that he was second in the field last week in approach because he just putted so horribly in the final round that he played the 10th hole just abysmally all week that it took himself out of it. But he was first at Sony, second at Riviera. Like, his irons are dialed in. And if this is going to be a primary second shot course where you don't need all of the distance in the world, because he doesn't have that, but he's very good off the tee accuracy wise, that if he can just make a few putts, he's going to be right there. He's going to give himself the opportunity to at least score DraftKings points over anything else. He might not be able to get it up and down. He might make some bogeys, but I feel like he's going to even that out. He'll score better than wherever he places, unless, of course, he finishes first, which would be fine because I bet him outright as well. But when you have Reed and Simpson, like, I'm playing into the sort of the Justin Thomas narrative of all of this at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, Morikawa is probably going to end up, now that I've just looked at a couple ownership projections, he's probably going to be a really good leverage play here. I mean, I think Webb is going to be very popular. The more I think about this,
he should be. He should be popular. Webb Simpson is really good.
He's really good, and like even just comparing the betting odds, like to where he is to most of these guys. I mean, he's smaller in the betting odds than most of the guys above him. So just from that perspective, people are going to see the value there. He's just so consistent, right? So I think Morikawa, though, we might get like pretty low ownership on him. I mean, maybe sub 10% for a WGC. Maybe not sub 10%, but it could be. It's going to be low owned coming off like a couple bad weeks. People maybe not just buying into the whole irons are firing. So I like that as a pivot move for sure. I think it comes down between him and Fleetwood there if you're going to make a pivot off of Webb. And, Morikawa, at least we know from that we got the PGA stats to back us up there. Fleetwood's played a bit this year. He's kind of looked a little bit lost, though, for like 6 months now. So I don't know. I could make a case for him, but Morikawa is probably the safer pivot there and definitely coming in with low ownership.
FantasyNational.com/Mayo if you want access to the full ownership projections. And once again, I'm going to be live on Wednesday, noon Eastern time on Mayo Media Network, the YouTube channel. So please go subscribe, jump into the chat. Unless you're a goober, then you can fuck right off. But you can listen to it after the fact on the podcast as well. And I'm doing a new thing where if you do have questions but don't have time to jump into the live chat, you can dump them in the comment section of the video. And then I'll answer them later on at night, probably around like 8 p.m. Eastern time. I'll try to get to whatever is in there. So I'm trying to make it a bit more interactive, Jeff, when it comes down to it. But that's where you can really get the ownership projections. And the way that I'm seeing it right now, it's still very early in the week. Very few people have generated lineups so far. So it's a bit hit or miss. But everyone is kind of over 10% until you get to the 8K range. Then you have some noticeable guys that no one is using. Fleetwood, who you mentioned, is tops on that list. No one's using Matsuyama. No one's really using Max Homa either.
Yeah, Max Homa, probably just the whole winner's fade thing. I mean, obviously, taking a step up in class here, you can kind of understand that. I mean, as far as people who can fuck off, I mean, Matsuyama can definitely do that for me. I'm done with Hideki, so everyone else can play him. I don't really care what his ownership is, to be honest. I just don't even know what's going on with him. So I would rather play Scotty Scheffler there. The irons are heating up. Even if he gets to be a little bit chalky, he's really consistent off the tee. Straight and long. Like I said, he's improved his strokes gain approach now in 3 straight starts. So I'll take a shot with Scotty there. I think Fitzpatrick is interesting, especially if you're going with like the narrative you went. He's played well Bay Hill before as well. Can get those wedges and putter firing. So if the wind stays down, I think there's some value there. But I'm fine going to either one of those guys over Hideki, and Scheffler would probably be my top play in that region.
So for me, it's going to be Im, by far the top play in the 8K range. I also bet him to win. A site that you and I have access to actually has him at 45-1 right now. So
yeah, and I love Sungjae too. I mean, if it's in terms of like ranking the 8K range, he's definitely tops for me, and then it would probably be Scheffler. But yeah, some pretty good odds. I mean, look, Sungjae's T3 at Bay Hill last year won his only event at Honda. I mean, the guy likes Bermuda. He likes Florida. He just moved into a new house too, Pat. So he's not a hobo anymore. He's not like, going hotel to hotel, living vicariously. He's got a house. So
he just took 2 weeks off. That's incredible for him. It's the longest layoff in his
factor,
career.
I mean, that's the biggest thing. Like Sungjae is going to be rusty. He hasn't played a competitive golf tournament in 2 weeks here. So who knows what we'll get, but I think you're getting really good value. He's improved his off the tee game so much. He's been confident with the putter. So yeah, I really like him in that range.
I mean, there's a noticeable through line with some of the guys that I'm using too. Like, let's not discount the fact that we're back on Bermuda, like real Bermuda for the first time in ages.
And that's part of the reason why I like Rory too. I mean, he's got his career putting splits on Bermuda like +9 over everything else. So, it's a shift. You got guys like Fitzpatrick have putted the lights out on Bermuda over his career too. So, yeah, I think you're going to see some names come to life here who maybe you just didn't see. I mean, Hideki is the opposite. He's got terrible putting splits on Bermuda, which means he'll probably gain like 10 strokes putting. Now that I've said that, but it's definitely a big change.
The only other guy besides Im, I could be talked into Fitzpatrick. I just don't. I'm playing so few lineups that I just don't think he's
priced up too.
But that's fine though. Like, I don't mind him. I think that he can compete in a field like this and longer. It's almost like Patrick Reed, where longer courses don't scare me with him. Like he's just that kind of player. If the winning score is like -13, he can win that sort of event because he gets
better
it up
on longer courses.
Yeah, like and same as Patrick Reed, where like he doesn't bleed strokes away like some of the top end guys do, because if he's like 50 yards from the hole off the green, like, he's getting it up and down. Like that's not an issue for him. Where the only guy I could be talked into after Sungjae, and this is a pure ownership play, is that no one seems to be playing Adam Scott. Like he is the lowest owned projected guy I see in this range. And I kind of get it, but I don't know. It's still Adam Scott. He's still pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's won this event before. Last time it was played in Florida, he won actually. His last two wins outside of Riviera came at Honda and Durrell, right? So he's won plenty in Florida over his career, won the Players too. So yeah, I'm kind of in agreement. Scott's looked pretty solid at times this year. I mean, he was right up there at the Farmers 2 events ago, making cuts left and right. I agree. Like from an ownership perspective, I know I definitely still prefer Scheffler, but if Scott's coming in like really low owned to the end of the week, I'll play him absolutely in this range too. Neiman's Zalatoris definitely gets some ownership. I mean, you like the tee to green that's going with Zalatoris. I get it. Maybe for a cash game player or whatever, but Adam Scott, absolutely, man. I agree. I'd put him up there in like my bag of plays that I'd want exposure to for GPPs.
Yeah, so maybe I'll expand to 5 lineups so I can get some Adam Scott action in there as well, because the lineups I currently have constructed do not have him in it out of the 3, because got the hard choices to make. And speaking of that, we get to the 7K range, and I got no one until I got Mark Leishman at $7,400.
Oh, okay, that's fair. I'll probably play Jason Day. The approaches were piling up a little bit, or just improving a little bit at Phoenix. The round the green and putting was good at Pebble. He's multiple time winner in Florida as well. If we like this, that it's going to be a hard scrambling week at small greens. I mean, he can definitely get around if it's going to be a tough scoring week. So I'll have some exposure. It's Jason Day, so it always comes with risk. But I think for betting too, he's just getting himself in contention. Not every week, but more times than not at this point. Obviously last year he had a couple like close calls. So I think 7,800. I'm okay playing him, kind of like the Adam Scott play a little bit. So I don't mind that. What's your thoughts on Matt Wolff this week? Just completely. Out?
Yeah, it's not that I'm out because I don't think that he's going to play well. It's just I don't like the price. I like other players better, and he doesn't fit with really what I'm going for this week. So I'll take a pass on him. Rose would be the one that would have the most interest to me, but I don't think that I can get him in. English is just, frankly, going to be way too popular, and I don't think that he is distinctively different than anyone else in that range. Like, you could probably play Sergio at 1/4 the ownership. Not that I'm playing Sergio, but I think that's pretty comparable at a course like this. Leishman, just in general, I like him in Florida. I like him on Bermuda, and I like what he's been doing lately. It hasn't been great, but the irons have been great in every single event in 2021, and it's been 2 consecutive weeks where he's putted well too. That if those are the 2 things that I want you to do at this course, give me some Mark Leishman.
And he's cheap too, right? Like he's cheaper than all these guys. So it doesn't look like he's going to come in crazy owned or anything. It doesn't look like he's going to be super popular. Like you said, everyone should pile into English. I mean, obviously a solid play at this price, but yeah, I might sprinkle Matt Wolff just because he's like 90 or 100 to 1 at this point, but I think I'll probably just avoid him. It doesn't seem to have great control of his tee ball right now. It can turn on a dime. It's always scary fading him when you get these kind of prices, but I think I'm pretty much in agreement. I'm talking up Day and Rose a little bit, but Leishman's cheaper than both these guys. And if he's not playing better, he's playing just as good and he's got just as much upside. So definitely see the value there. And realistically, like after him, you're going down kind of a notch in range to like the 7,200 anyways. So Leishman looks like good value, good pivot anyways off of English for sure.
And I like Ryan Palmer a lot. I'm not alone in that. And it tears me apart inside a little bit, only because there's so much water on this course. And we know what happens to Ryan Palmer every few events when there's a bit too much water around. It's like playing EVR this week, that it's like, oh God, he's going to end up in the middle of that lake. I can just see it. But he's been playing so good. He seems so cheap compared to where he's at in the world rankings, what his betting odds are. He's like 55 to 1. He's $7,200 on DraftKings. Like, that's kind of nuts. He's going to be exceptionally popular, and cheap chalk in a WGC is never great, but I don't love a lot of the other alternatives down there. I like him a lot. Like, I like him more than Answer and Kisner and Horschel and Seabez and Kokrak and Lowry and Ortiz and all those guys. Like, he was the one that I came to first.
It's hard to make an argument for any of these guys over him, really. I mean, outside of ownership, right? I mean, if you're playing anyone else than Ryan Palmer in this range, it's because of ownership. Realistically, Lowry, I don't even like. Okay, he's played over in Dubai, a couple nice starts, but let's just talk about it from a pivot standpoint, because realistically, you should probably just be playing Ryan Palmer. But from a pivot standpoint, again, you want the lower ownership, or you're just looking for to get a little bit of get your lineup down in terms of total ownership. Lots of names that could potentially be pivots. I like Bezuidenhout. I'm not gonna lie. Dude's sort of picked it up a little bit. His ball striking is a little bit better over in the Euro Tour stats. Won twice then last year. Played over in Florida here last year. Bay Hill was in contention, so I'll take a shot with him. But again, it's a pure ownership thing. I think the guy's really talented, and I think he can like top 10 or something in this field. But Palmer is just too cheap, so it's not really like a pure. He's projected to be better, or I think these guys are equal. It's kind of just, I'm taking the lower ownership. I'm taking a shot with a talented player in big GBPs.
I like Seabez fine. He's currently 10th on the European Tour through 3 events in strokes gained approach. And again, he can get it up and down. He can make some putts. He's just a very bad driver of the ball. But if he can just hit some fairways here and dial in with his irons, I think he should be fine. I don't mind him in the slightest at 7,200. I don't think that, especially when thinking about how to construct lineups for a no-cut event like this, that I don't think you necessarily have to pivot off of Ryan Palmer into someone in this range. You can just construct your lineups differently and just use no one from this range if you don't like it. Like, the guy that no one's using is Bobby Mack, because he's a bit expensive versus, I think, where like the relative value in our minds rests with him, even in terms of the betting odds. But I don't really know what to make of him at this event. Like, I think if no one's going to use Leishman, I'll just use Leishman. I'm going to use Leishman either way, but if he's going to be lower owned, and I'm going to use Palmer as well. Like, that's what I don't want to talk myself out of a good play, because everyone also realizes he's a good play.
And you can play Palmer. Like, if you can play Palmer and Bezuidenhout, right? Like, I mean, you can make lineups like that too. You can go with a really low and pivot it, and then stuff Ryan Palmer in there as well. Or like you said, you don't even have to pivot to this range. So yeah, there's plenty of ways to go about it. You definitely don't need to fade him just for the ownership. There's ways you can do it. But again, if it comes down to it, and you're constructing lineups in a certain way, and you've got too much Ryan Palmer, Bezuidenhout would probably be the guy I'd choose for a pivot in that range. But completely right. Ryan Palmer's a really good play this week. You don't need to fade him. You can definitely use other players along with him in this range. So
that's more or less why I wanted to leave $200-300 on the table, because then I don't care about if he's 16% owned. Then
exactly.
It doesn't make a difference to me, because no one's probably going to have my lineups anyway. 6K guys, once again, like I mentioned, Tom and Sky are going to be breaking down all of the European Tour players on Daily Fantasy Sports Picks and Bets, The Mix, where I'll also have my one and done up. You can find the link to that podcast subscription down there. Rate and review it while you're at it, like you should rate and review the Pat Mayo Experience. It's also just going to be up in video form on the Pat Mayo Experience, on the Mayo Media Network, YouTube channel as well. So subscribe to that. You can check it out on Tuesday night. And just, there's a lot of European Tour players in this 6K range. That's why I bring it up. The only 2 players that I've used so far in lineups from down here are Woodland and Mackenzie Hughes. The only other ones I really have interest in are Lipsky and Hogard. Those would be my other 2. If I made a few more lineups, those guys would probably seep into it. Just because Lipsky, I don't know, I've seen him top 5 at decent events. He's really good with his wedges. He can score. Can he make a putt? I mean, that's to be debated. And Hogard, like, he could be the best iron player in this field if it's like the right week.
Yeah, absolutely. Lipsky's interesting. I think he actually played in Florida last week too on the Corn Ferry Tour. So
yeah, he was 23rd, 24th. Now, but that was in Orange County. That was in Orange County.
Yeah,
which is
how to get into this event is my question. I don't know.
Orange County National Championship presented by Night 33. And that was in Florida. Weird. Anyway, that's a tournament that he played that Trey Mullenix ended up winning. Okay, when was this tournament? This was last week, you say?
I thought it was last week. Maybe not. I don't know.
I have this from the end of the year that he was playing Corn Ferry events. Maybe he did play. Now I have to go look up Lipsky. Lipsky official.
They played in Florida last week on the Corn Ferry Tour. I thought Lipsky was in it, but I could be wrong about that.
Yes, he was in the field last week, and he was T23. Okay. So far in 2021, the reason he's in this event because they're taking the Race to Dubai standings from the European Tour this year, as well as the final run last year of who qualifies, right. Okay. And he was T5 in Abu Dhabi, so I think that he's inside the top 10 of the Race to Dubai. So I think that's how he ends up getting in. But his past 4 starts. T5 in Abu Dhabi, T35 in Dubai, missed the cut in Saudi and was T23 last week, going over to the Corn Ferry Tour from Europe. So at least he's over there. He's familiar on Bermuda, but he's just a really good wedge player. Makes some putts. And I mean, put it this way, he's not expensive. He makes a lot of lineups work.
If the course doesn't play tough, like that tough, definitely Lipsky can make some birdies out there for you. So I agree. Like I look at the 6K range. That is definitely the name that kind of stuck out to me. I know we talked about it a little bit, tiny bit earlier in the week. But, Valimaki is probably a better talent, but he's playing terribly. Van Ruin, I don't know. I guess you could take a shot with Van Ruin or something, but I don't really want to. He's not playing well either right now. It looks like he can get it going, though. If he gets it going, he could be a monster play down there. So I guess Van Ruin you could consider. But then it's kind of, going up to 6,400. Like you said, Hughes, Kuchar, Todd, Champ. I think Hughes is fine. Yeah, absolutely. It would be between him or Todd because really, realistically, you're just looking for a hot putting week from one of those dudes, and they can get it done. Absolutely. If scrambling and stuff and getting up and down is going to be big, Brendan Todd or Mackenzie Hughes, if they just have a good week around the greens with the putter, they're going to end up outscoring a lot of the guys in front of them. So I think Hughes and Todd down there definitely would be in play. I think they're fine pivots. Cameron Champ, very tempting. Going to be very tempting this week for me to lay off Cameron Champ. No cut event. You're guaranteed 4 rounds. A couple of eagles, probably gets it done. But he's playing pretty terrible. So,
like I said, I'm probably going to end up playing Hogard. He's, in my mind,
really good.
not that I have the greatest sample with Rasmus Hogard. However, he's kind of like the Danish Siwoo Kim, is the way I would describe him. Like he gets so insanely hot. And like even so far this year, he has back-to-back top 10s in Dubai and Saudi. He was T25 before that. Has he played in? He missed the cut at the U.S. Open. That's sort of like the only U.S. experience that he has. But this is a guy that won on the European Tour last year. He had a 2nd place finish, a 3rd place finish. He won twice. He won the year before that on the mix between the European and South African Sunshine Tour stuff. He's a young guy. He's Danish, but he can get locked in. Remember how much we loved the hell was his name before he disappeared off the face of the earth? The other Danish guy, not Olsen. The one who
Bjerregaard.
The one who beat Tiger. Bjerregaard.
Yeah.
In the match play. But he has those vibes to me where it's like, oh, there's a 7-hole stretch. Oh, he's 8 under par. It's like, what is going on here? Who is this guy? So I feel like that's a sort of 6K guy that I want on my DraftKings lineup. He might be awful in this field, but I do know that he can make birdies.
No, I think I agree. Look, Tom Lewis came in T2 in the last WGC. So a guy like Hogard or even a guy like I brought up, like Bazan, these guys can get it done, man, if they get hot with their irons. I think he's a good play in that range too. Wiesberger is interesting too for similar reasons, but I look at this range too. Kevin Na is to me a little bit too risky just because it's a WGC and he might just he might pull a Tournament of Champions where he just decides to take a vacay, collect a check. Munoz, I don't really love playing in Florida. I think he's okay. He played well last week. He's a really good DraftKings scorer, and Cameron Champ's risky. The best player, the guy who's playing the best right now in this range objectively is Hogard. So I'm kind of with you there. I think he's a guy if you're dipping down here, even for a single entry, I think it's okay. I really do. And I'm sure, like you said, Sky will have better thoughts on it than me. But he's a really solid player. I think we know that by now. He can compete. And it's just a matter of, is he there experience-wise at this point? He did finish T37 at Bermuda Championship last year, so he's played a couple U.S. events. It wasn't in the U.S., but you get my point. I don't mind it. I think between him, it might even be between him and Wiesberger down here, although I think most people play Lanto. But, Hogard definitely interesting.
Chalk plays right now, the way it's shaping up from down in this range, Lonto, EVR are the two that really stick out in terms of ownership.
Yeah.
Like I said, I like Woodland and I like Mackenzie Hughes. Mackenzie Hughes on Bermuda at a Nicholas course. Just dial in some 80-foot putts and you're all good to go with him. And with Woodland, like Woodland was 4th in the field in driving last week. He only played 2 rounds because he putted so poorly.
Yeah. I mean, that's the story for a lot of people. That was the story for Rory last week. It's a story for JT last week too, although, Woodland probably hit it better than those guys. So maybe I shouldn't discount Gary. I'm just kind of the opinion. There's something going on with him. I just feel like there's something like, I know he had some weird injury stuff. Like it was never really like fully disclosed, but I just feel like there's still maybe a swing change or something. I don't know. But it does feel like he's another player, kind of like Champ, where it's just going to go, or Wolf, like we're going to go from like 0 to 100 here, like a miscut to like a T4 or T2. So it's not a bad idea to take a chance with Gary Woodland here at 6,800. You're getting the right price.
All right, that will do it on the Pat Mayo Experience, WGC Workday DraftKings Picks and Preview. My cheat sheet will be up on DKNation.com a little bit later on Tuesday evening. Wednesday on FTNDaily.com, my pivot plays will be up. You can catch me in Golf Digest this week. My live chat is tomorrow. You can go back and check out yesterday's show, full of sad Jeff Feinberg, because Tony Finau lost after he was Anderhurst. What do you got going on this week?
This week got just give me a follow on the Twitter machine at the Fantasy Grind. But doing NHL stuff for Osmo and DraftKings, you can check that out too. Got the betting preview up on Tuesday from livemovement.com, so you can check that out. And just doing stuff for DraftKings. Got the Dream Stream going there as they tend to do it. If you like the Madden Sims, got the golf stuff up on the DK Nation. So lots of stuff. Give me a follow, like I said, at the Fantasy Grind. You figure out all the good stuff. And Pat, I mean, you can talk about this Puerto Rico event at all, or what?
Oh yeah, let's talk about the PRO. I built a lineup for it.
So did I. It's terrible.
Yeah, I used Griot. And I bet 2 guys to win the Puerto Rico Open. One was Justin Suh. I missed by 40. I had to bet him at 35. And the other one was this guy that the Fantasy National Simulator spit out to me, Paul Barjon. He might be Canadian for all I know.
I think he's French.
I mean, I don't know if his name is actually Paul Barjon. It could be like Paul Barjan. Like if he's American, they have no concept of nuance of accents and how things are actually pronounced. So I mean,
like Guy Herbert.
Yeah, Guy Herbert. Why don't you come to the foyer of my house? Oh, okay. nice use of the language there.
I'm using Lewis and Schneider Jans for my DraftKings lineup. No shock there. But I also bet Sue, really talented player. Bet Will Gordon as well, and sprinkled a couple vets, Uline and Castro. So that's my PRO hot takes.
Paul Barjon from France. So yeah, he is from France. Yeah. There we are. Right. Let's see. Puerto Rico Open DraftKings field. So yeah, Barjon. I'm probably going to use, I'm basically just picking these straight off like narratives. I'm going to fade like the very, very top end with like Peters and Wallace. Feels like this is more of a tune-up for them for the bigger events that are upcoming. Yeah. I mean, Poulter's in play, Grace is in play because this place can get super dicey in terms of weather, but I'll just take Griot. Plays well at this course, playing well coming in. He's like 10-6. Other than that, who was the other like random dude that I played? Lee Hodges. Just his DraftKings price versus the odds seemed really off. I'll use Aaron Badley because he enjoys playing the alternative events.
Yeah, Badley's he loves these ones. He just comes to, he wins one of these every 3 years, and then he just renews his tour membership, and he's good to go for a few years.
Yeah, where's Troy? Oh, Troy Merritt isn't playing. He's always one of the other ones that you want to get in these like stupid crossover events. So yeah, I'm just kind of playing it by ear with the PRO. I think I put in like $80 worth of entries, and I have the 2 bets on Barjon and Sun. That's the way I'm rolling.
It's a really the events like the last like 10 years, it's either like a really big name, like a Justin Sue breaks through, or like a Hovland or Finau, or it's like a DA points. And so I'm just going like big or small. I mean, I sprinkled a couple bets on like I said, Castro as well, and veterans like that who maybe just like get hot for a week and something crazy happens. But I like Sue and Will Gordon too. I think those are young players who could potentially break through here. So it's a fun event. It's a good event to waste money on. So
for sure. The best players in this field over the past 5 years in terms of total strokes gained: Scott Brown, Badley, Griot, Tim Wilkinson, and the Teats, Josh Teeter.
Yeah, Teeter he was really close last year. That was actually kind of rough for him. Barjon's 125 to 1. Hey, I might have to hit that up too.
Yeah, it turns out he's not good the more I looked into him.
All right. Fair enough. Maybe I won't bet him then.
He has, I think he has a win on the Corn Ferry Tour. It might have been on the Mackenzie Tour. Also, he played like really well at these like San Antonio courses on the Corn Ferry Tour, which tend to be like super windy. And this course can get super windy, being a coastal course. Yeah, let's see. He came second at the Winco Foods. All right, last August. Second at San Antonio. Third in San Antonio. Second in Mexico. So we had 4 top 3 finishes on the Corn Ferry Tour in like 14 starts last year. That's not bad.
No, he has won something, like some kind of Corn Ferry event or something. Michael Kim is another name.
The Michael
cuts.
Kim?
Yeah, Michael Kim. He's made 2 cuts, Pat. He's rolling. He's on a roll, man. His ball striking was actually pretty good. I'm serious. Like 200 to 1, whatever. Like who else are you gonna bet at 200 to 1? Chris Couch?
Oh, Chris fuck yo Couch. Here we go. In his one PGA start, Paul Barjon was 20th at the Canadian Open in 2019.
That's pretty solid, actually. All right, maybe I will bet him.
I am
betting Michael Kim.
I think that was the year Rory won in Hamilton. Because there was no Canadian Open last year. Yeah, a lot of that was like round 4 stuff. I think he shot like 60.
Right.
We haven't seen one of those Rory rounds in a while. Actually, his final round in Phoenix was like super low.
That's he's been all over the place. Like he was. I thought it might happen for him last week. He was so good at the final round at the Waste Open 64. You think maybe it'll come through, but maybe we'll just get a delayed Rory. So,
all right, that will do it on the Pat Mayo Experience. Go Paul Barjon or my Justin Thomas, Phil Mickelson, Justin Suh triple. That would be nice. Is that the move for this week? Like, whatever you think about playing on DraftKings, whatever you're thinking about betting it, just bet it on Phil plus 350 to win on the Champions Tour.
Yeah, just triple it. I mean, like you said, take Sue and whoever you like you like Barjon, and I'll take Michael Kim and do two parlays with or triple parlays with Phil and whoever you like at the top at the WGC, and then you just retire after.
Let's see, David Lipsky 5.5 to 1. Top 20 finish. I might have to be in on that. I might have to put my money where my mouth is with old Lipsky. Give him the fat lip to my bank account. David Lipsky, let's go, pal. All right, that will do it on the Pat Mayo Experience. Smash the like, give me your favorite sleeper, and all the good stuff. Become a member at fantasynational.com today. fantasynational.com/Mayo to get yourself said discount. I'm Pat Mayo. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.
Pat Mayo Experience! Experience!